Hey there, welcome everybody to Portfolio Night. Welcome those who are here early. I see some familiar faces. Welcome, welcome. Today we have a very exciting stream. Not only do you get to see my face, I'm not a cartoon today, but we have a very special evening planned with one of our guests from our Discord named Gonzalo. And before we get started, though, if you are here and you are a portfolio student, let us know in the chat if you have any questions for our Q&A, because we're going to get into that in a little bit. But just before we get started, if you didn't know, our mission at WinCanvas is to make art education easily accessible for everyone. And if you are an art nerd, be sure to join our Discord and to check out the links in our social media. So I'm glancing at my script over here because I'm not used to talking to the camera, because we're not just a YouTube channel, we are a school of illustration. So if you are new here, also let us know. You can find out everything you need to know about our school at wincanvas.com. And tonight's stream is also sponsored by XP Pen. Thank you so much, XP Pen, for sponsoring our streams and helping us support our mission of making arts education easily accessible. I personally use an XP Pen Artist 15.6 Pro, and I love it. And it doubles as my third screen here. So very handy, even outside of digital art. So definitely go check out their tablets. All right, so without further ado, I would like to welcome our very special guest. Welcome in Gonzalo Fraguas.
How are we doing, Faye? Oh man, so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. So actually, fun fact, Gonzalo is a verified critiquer on our Discord, which actually means that he will, in his free time, will help other portfolio students for free, just because he's so kind, review their portfolio. And I actually stumbled upon your portfolio on the Discord, and I was like, why? Like, this guy has an amazing portfolio, but he was still asking for advice. So it just goes to show that, you can learn wherever you are, right? Anyway, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Well, hi everyone. I'm Gonzalo. Yeah, like Faye said, you may know me from the Discord if you're part of that. If not, get on there. It's fantastic, an amazing community. And yeah, no, I went there for the same reason many of you are here. I went there because I'm an artist who wants to improve and get better, and I found a wonderful place to do so. Right now, I'm a professional artist working in video games. I'm a concept artist for a small independent studio, and yeah, even though I'm working professionally as an artist, like there's never like a moment where you can stop growing. So that's why I joined the Discord, to push myself and get wonderful help from a lovely community. And yeah, I was happy to help and give back, and join as a verified critiquer. So any critiques, any help you may need, I'm one of the hundreds of amazing folks in there trying to help.
Thank you. Well, Gonzalo's going to talk to us about his portfolio journey, not just art school portfolio, but like after art school and then professional portfolio. So you guys are in
Yes.
for a treat, and you'll see how much he's improved. And hopefully this will be very inspiring and motivating
Yes.
for you.
Yes. So yeah, because the theme of the stream today, we're going to be talking about art school, and in the process, we'll discuss whether it's worth it or not, whether it's something that you might want to apply to. But the theme is just talking about my specific art school journey, and yeah. Just to preface that, I'm Spanish. I am a European citizen, so a lot of my experiences will vary a lot from those you might have over on the other side of the pond or anywhere else in the world. But that's I'm going to ground it in my experience and what it's like to go through this process in a more European education kind of focus. Yeah.
That's great. And oh, I just lost my voice there. Uh, that's great because most of our portfolio streams in the past have featured Canadian schools. And I think Canadian schools and American schools are pretty similar, except we've never actually had a European POV. And so I think this is a really good opportunity to kind of talk about how international art schools work.
Yes.
So, uh, today we're going to go over how to create a winning art school portfolio and professional portfolio tips for landing that first creative job. So I hire a lot of creative people, so I'm happy to answer questions about that. And is art school still worth it? Because I think there's a lot of uncertainty right now, especially in today's world with all these futuristic
Mm,
tools that we're trying to
mm.
juggle. And I think there's a lot of hesitancy. So we're going to talk about whether or not it's still worth it. And lastly, the live Q&A. So bring your questions in and get your real-time advice here. And just shout out to Kevin. Thank you so much for modding the stream. And if you
Yes.
have any questions, I'm sure he's very, very helpful. He will be there to help us answer them. All right, so over to you, Gonzalo.
Yes. Okay. So let's start with my entry portfolio, and before we get into it, I just want to preface it because a lot of the stories you hear around everyone focuses on their successes and all the cool stuff that got them to the place they are. I want to start with focusing on my failures. I studied in Spain, and during my secondary education, I focused on art because I started applying to art schools that weren't in Spain, specifically in the UK. This system of application works very different. Whereas in Spain, you only need a grade to get into art school. In places like the UK and pretty much everywhere else in Europe, you actually need a portfolio, an entry portfolio. So I was incredibly unfamiliar with what a portfolio even was, how to start working on it. So the first time I applied for university, I got denied for all three universities that I applied to, and it took me a whole year of like buckling down and working on my portfolio. Um, Living with my parents, working part time, and trying to focus on improving, and with very few resources, trying to look online to see what help I could get. And thanks to that, I eventually did get into university. So a lot of people will tell you that it's you always focus on, I tried it but I didn't get in, so it's all hopeless for me. It's about actually being able to focus your talents in a way that you can actually showcase them. My abilities didn't really improve that much in that whole year. It was more about the way I was showing them and the pieces I had and the way I organized them in order to actually get into university. So yeah, that's why I wanted to do this. Why I think things like the amazing work that they do over here at Win Canvas is really important, because it gives you those resources that some of us don't have. A lot of countries have a lot of in-person work, but if you're in a situation like I was, online is the best kind of resources you're going to be able to find. So yeah, that's just to preface it. Now, yeah, let's get into the actual portfolio. This is the one that got me into university. So every university has a lot of different requirements. It's very important for you to read through what you're applying for and tailor your portfolio to that specific course. I think we had a question earlier. We'll address it back again in the Q&A, but you do want to focus your portfolio on the specific thing you're applying for. If you're applying for several different universities, several different courses, you want that portfolio to be focused, if nothing else, because a lot of different universities, a lot of different colleges, a lot of different courses ask for a lot of different things. So you want to be able to actually match their requirements. In my case, it was a digital submission, which, as Faye and I were talking about earlier, not a very common thing. So because it was a digital submission meant for students from abroad to be able to submit without having to make the journey to the university. There was a big emphasis on showing your process. Especially, I can imagine nowadays with the new technologies that have arisen and a lot of like the AI generated imagery, it's probably even more important to showcase that process and those basics outside of just a pretty finished piece. And in my case, there was a maximum of 15 files that I could upload. So within these parameters is how I make the portfolio. Yes.
Cool. So Gonzalo, just but before we get into the portfolio,
Yes.
I always tell my students, because sometimes it's very
Mm,
overwhelming to
mm,
decide which schools you want to apply to.
mm.
So I always advise to have a top choice, right? Your dream
Yes.
school, and cater your portfolio to that, and then have a
Mm,
couple of backups,
mm.
and then prioritize those afterwards. But
Yes.
how many schools did you apply to, and which
That was,
school did you get
yeah.
into?
So that was exactly what I did. I
Oh,
applied to
amazing.
three different schools. One of them was my dream school. That was the University of Dundee, College of DJ CAD, which is the Duncan Jordanstone School of Art and Design. And that was my dream school that I put the most work into applying for. But then I also applied to the University of Glasgow Caledonian and the University of Edinburgh. Those were kind of like my safety schools. The if I don't get into my dream course, at least these two courses seem to be kind of what I'm looking for. And especially because I applied to the an animation degree, it's not, and you'll find with a lot of art degrees, they're not very standardized. You don't get the same thing from every university. So it is important to look around and try to see what matches what you're expecting from your course. I, for example, wasn't very sure about the Edinburgh animation course because it seemed a lot more kind of free and structured, more focused on modern art and exhibition art rather than more kind of like industrial approach to animation. So I was more interested in a different course. But again, it pays to take a look because just because it's called animation doesn't mean that it's going to be the same course in different universities.
That's a really good point. So let's dig into your portfolio, and let's have a look here.
Yes. This is a bit embarrassing, but let's look through it. Okay. So I had a couple of sketchbook pages. As any artist does, I keep a sketchbook with me at all times. And as you can see, a lot of very cartoony drawings. I think a lot of what like managed to get, at least from my now adult perspective looking back at this, I can see that what probably really sold them as like a good candidate for this animation course was that I not only had like decent fundamentals of anatomy, but the attempts at like expression and exaggeration, like posing and movement and like the different like you could see that different stories in the faces of the characters. It wasn't just a lot of like flat T poses. So I think for the specific course that I was applying to, which was animation, that kind of like expression and exaggeration was something that they were probably happy to see in these pieces. There's a lot wrong with them, but I think that those are the things that probably stood out, and we'll see a lot of that throughout the portfolio. Again, like it's really good to try and focus and see, hey, what are they looking for this specific course? What skills would they be looking for? So this is a life drawing slash characterization thing. I did a bunch of studies. You don't even, I mean, it is better if you do live drawing. It's really nice. It's a great exercise, a thing I still do to this day. Keeps you on your toes, and it's just fantastic, especially if you work with a human figure a lot. But if you don't have access to live drawing sessions around your hometown, there's a lot of websites, and especially now with a lot of like AI generation, where you can see different random people's faces, random like tons of pictures of people in different poses with different movements. And I used a couple of those for this specific kind of work. And I think a good thing that I showed here was the taking that more like study and then pushing it further. a thing that you do a lot in animation is that stylization and that exaggeration. So yeah, you can see with the little grandpa holding the books, you have a more kind of like slightly cartoonicized version of it, but then the more exaggerated shapes next to it. I think that's a lot of like what they're going to be looking for. Not that you just have the capability of like life drawing, which is important, but the fact that you can take those shapes and try to exaggerate them and just stretch those forms and push. A lot of the things they say in animation literally is just push it further, just keep pushing. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely life drawing is one of those things that is essential for every portfolio. It starts with life drawing for
Absolutely.
sure.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. So, see, a thing I will say here, be careful with fan art. I have a lot of fan art in my portfolio. I don't know how, honestly, I think I got away with it a bit. Uh, I wouldn't do too much fan art in your portfolio. I would try to create your own, show you create your own characters or base things like we were saying in live drawings and things like that. Fan art can be very problematic because from someone that's looking at a portfolio, it can read as you rather than seeking to see those shapes and those forms and those character creations, you're more just like copying something that you've seen without fully understanding why it is the way it is. Especially when you see fan art of like 2D works, that's a very big one. Very easy to just like grab a picture of a Disney princess and just redraw that Disney princess. It's not as easy to try to create your own and understand those 3D shapes and those volumes and that stuff. And again, this art is far from perfect, but I think I might have gotten away with it because a lot of the things I did were from live action movies where I was just stylizing those characters into 2D characters rather than recreating already existing 2D characters. Regardless, I would suggest a big warning sign around fan art. Try to avoid it as much as possible. But yeah, these are some works with inks. Inktober helps those challenges and stuff when you're stuck and don't have any ideas. Are always really good to like push your brain around and get some stuff. And yeah.
Well, just a question on the fan art. Were these posters
Mm.
that you designed based on
Yes.
screenshots? Like they weren't actual copies of what was already
Yes.
existing? I see. Okay.
Yes, none of these are posters. I basically like even the alien pose I kind of came up with by looking at a bunch of references from the alien. Same with the kind of like slasher film. I just looked at what the bad guy from the film looked from a couple of pictures and tried to pose them. That's another thing. Like you really do want to show that you can make your own compositions and stuff. These, for example, also sort of fan arts. One is a character from a role playing game that I saw people play on a YouTube video. Uh, kind of designed him myself though. There's no like visual reference for him. I just listened to someone's D&D campaign and decided to draw the guy. And then to the right you have an acrylic painting of Soraka from League of Legends, but it's also incredibly stylized and very different from what she looks like and stuff, in a very different and very exaggerated pose. So I guess that like that should be like the hard and fast rule. If you're doing fan art, which you shouldn't be doing, but if you're doing it, push it to the point where it's almost unrecognizable from the source material.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And I can see the one on the right is signed 2016 for those of you who are
Yes.
wondering
Yes.
how old it is.
These are
Um,
very old. These
eight
are very,
years,
very old. Yeah.
if I did my math
Uh,
correctly.
yeah. So this first character to the left, for example, that was an idea of like creating like a character to embody the season of autumn, a grumpy dwarf where like his beard is like shaped like an upside down leaf. Again, lots of issues with the actual anatomy and the posing and stuff, but you can see that I'm trying to do exaggeration, that these characters are like trying to portray like like a variety of like body shapes and expressions, and the stylization with like the eyebrows not showing the eyes. Like a lot of that, even though it's, not to the abilities that I have nowadays, and maybe you might think, oh, it's a bit, there's some issues here, I can see problems over there. I think the reason this like showed us like potential to them was the fact that I am trying to create these expressions and these shapes and this movement and this kind of like visual storytelling through these characters. Like you could see that being a character that has like a story. To the right, this came out of a small kind of challenge that I was seeing online. Was a lot of the reason I got to ideas and reasons to push my art, and a lot of resources came from like YouTube videos and stuff. And in one YouTube video, they were doing like issuing a challenge to redesign Captain Nemo from the book. What's it called? 2000 Leagues Under the Sea or something like that. Maybe it's 2 million. I'm not good with numbers. But basically, like that's another great exercise. If you want to showcase your character design, a good thing that I've seen in a lot of professional portfolios as well is taking book characters that don't have a very defined visual identity. I've seen it done with like the original Wizard of Oz, trying to veer from like the movie visuals and try to focus on that. I've even seen it done with musicals. There was this one incredible character designer, and she did like a bunch of the characters for Sweeney Todd, and as if that were like an animated movie. So like trying to take things that are not in the medium of 2D animation and see what they would look like as exaggerated characters in that medium. That's a really good way to, work from a basis of storytelling, so you can try and say something about that character, because it can be challenging to just sit in front of a blank canvas and be like, huh, what am I going to come up with? What should I do here? So yeah, when it comes to things like character design and stuff like that, I definitely suggest doing things like that. And you can see the expression sheet at the bottom for Captain Nemo. uh, Tons of issues, but honestly it shows like that I was trying to get those expressions and stuff. Yeah, this I was spending a day at the park looking at robins, and I did some sketches on my sketchbook, and then I came home and started doing anatomical studies of them from photographs that I found online, and ended up creating like these cute little poses of a robin frolicking around and doing its little pecks from the kind of movement that like saw out in the park. So it kind of like shows a little bit of taking in those like anatomical studies, trying to understand the anatomy of the robin and how it would move, and then exaggerating it and trying to push it to be a character rather than just like a kind of drawing from real life. So again, with the character stuff, like I think this again, it's I was applying for animation. This is the kind of thing you want to show there: posing, exaggeration, character, motion. That's the kind of storytelling that you want to give with a portfolio like that. And I think that's why pieces like these manage to get me in, basically.
Yeah, that's a really nice one actually, and it's a really
Yeah.
good idea to draw from life, whether it's on the
Mm.
subway, whether it's at the park or the zoo. I know a lot of people go
Oh
sketch
yeah.
at the zoo too.
That's really fun.
Yeah.
I to this day I have a little sketchbook that I carry with me, and whenever I'm traveling, whether in the plane and the subway, I tend to just try and draw people from life, and it's really cool. You get some really good ideas when you're out there and just sitting down with a little sketchbook. It doesn't need to be good. That's a misconception about sketchbooks. Everyone wants to make them super pretty, super aesthetic, and fantastic. It's just for you. So yeah, it's a good way of like gathering ideas. Again, with the fan art, don't do this, guys. Too much fan art. Yeah, that's K2SO from Rogue One. Watched the movie, really liked it. You see a lot of trends on Instagram when a movie comes out. A lot of artists do like a little fan art of the movie if they enjoyed it and stuff. And I really like the quippiness of the character. Wonderful performance. And yeah, I just did a little drawing of him. Again, I think I got away with it because it is from live action, trying to stylize a robotic character that was very realistic and trying to make him look a bit more cartoony. And the same with Kubo over here from Kubo and the Two Strings. That's a stop motion Leica film. Yeah, trying to get that 3D character into 2D, and I think it is because of those reasons that I really like. But yes, no fan art, guys. Don't do fan art. Don't do as I say, not as I did. Yeah.
It's funny because with fan art,
Mm.
a lot of people. That's why we get into art, is because we
Yes.
are fans of animation and comics, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the reason we're here, right? But
And we want to recreate that. Yeah.
yeah, and there is a way you can get away with some fan art, but
Mm.
I as a general rule, no fan art. We
Mm.
actually have a blog on our
Yeah.
website,
Mm.
which goes deep into why no fan
Mm.
art and what you can do. So
Mm.
you can check that out on our website.
Yes, the OC culture, I guess it's a good one to substitute for fan art. If you have an
Yes.
original character, do not steal. You could draw fan art of your own character, and then it just really doesn't count as that. So that's a good substitution for it. This is some multimedia work. The one on the left is a bit of pandering. My sister had started at the university a year before I did in a completely different degree, and she was part of this like support group thing in the university, and suggested that I design crest Harry Potter style for the different houses, the different residences of the university. So I sent that over a year before and stuff, and I thought I should showcase it as like, oh, I can do graphic design. Clearly I can't, but it's a little bit of pandering. And everything to the right, it's because I was an avid sculptor. I really like monsters, and especially like visual, like old movie visual effects and these giant sculpted monsters and stuff like that. So I had a ton of different sculptures of creatures and things, and I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of showcase it. The photograph is pretty poor. If I were to do it again, I'd probably get better lighting and a more detailed photograph and stuff. But I guess it's a good way of showing that you are like adapt at different mediums. It's always good, even if it's like, especially being 15 whole drawings that you're submitting. If you have your strongest work, it's a good idea to be able to showcase, hey, this is some other stuff that I can do to kind of differentiate yourself from other candidates. And funnily enough, I think this one helped a lot because that again with the fan art, that blue thing with the tooth on its hand, that's a sculpture of a tooth fairy from Hellboy 2, The Golden Army. Turns
Oh.
out one of my teachers, my future lecturers, worked on that movie, and I animated that exact same creature in 3D. So when I did the interview, the lecturer dragged me out of the room to go meet the person who animated it. So definitely ended up like putting me in like a place where they remembered me at the very least. That's always good. Do like showcase the things that represent you and who you are as a person, because it'll make you stand out. Like not everyone is the same, so it's okay to slip in a little bit of weird stuff in there. Yeah, so this is basically they asked for process breakdowns. So these were a couple of ones that I did. If you click to the next one, we can see them a bit larger. Basically, I did a self portrait to try and show who I was and stuff. I think it's a neat idea. In this case, I wasn't sure I was going to get a in-person interview. It was probably going to be online and stuff, and it's a way of them remembering who you are. So that's a good idea if you can do it. And that's just me basically just going over and explaining a little bit of the what to me was the new and just discovered digital art process, because I started digital art as I was doing my portfolio. So yeah, just trying to explain how I did the layering and the shadows. I was in the camp of doing the black shadows and then lowering the opacity on top of everything. Uh, so yeah, a lot to learn. But again, like even if it's just like a self portrait and stuff, between the characters of the two owls and just me in that specific pose, it kind of shows a little bit of character and movement. And then I can have a basic understanding of some of these things. So I think it's an okay piece, but more than anything, it's a way of showing a little bit of, hey, this is me. I like owls, I guess. And here's the second piece. This one was a lot more elaborate in the sense of references and stuff. Don't be as scared to show that you gather references from places. That's not a bad thing. It's the opposite. It's a good thing. References are fantastic and they're great and we love them. And the more references you use, the more references you'll have in your head. So you'll eventually be able to remember certain things and how to draw certain things from memory. But references are fantastic. So this one, funnily enough, this was an assignment that was set for me by a different university when I applied to them. The Glasgow Caledonian School of Art and Design. They wanted me to do a poster that was like a movie or video game poster based on a couple of words, and they gave you a little option, and one of them was decay. So I decided to do this kind of like, I don't know, end of the of the Planet of the Apes. You did it. You destroyed everything. Kind of like pose of just someone despairing over the lost civilization that we somehow destroyed ourselves, kind of thing. And yeah, I looked at some like 1960s spacesuits and like buildings and stuff, and just created this composition and showed a little bit of how I kind of like went about doing that, and then just called it the K and the spray paint E because you know it looks cool and cyberpunky or something. But yeah, that was pretty much my portfolio, and somehow I got accepted. So you know,
Nice. Well, congratulations. I mean, Gonzalo, I'm just going to go back here for a couple,
yes, 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 of
couple
course.
slides because
Hmm,
I think what I find interesting, because I've been a
hmm,
portfolio adjudicator, and when I look at portfolios,
hmm,
generally I'm looking at at a variety of different styles, especially
hmm,
entry portfolios, because
hmm,
you're going to art school. I want to see some of your personality, but you're also there to learn and explore. So
hmm,
seeing a little bit of graphic design, seeing a little bit of narrative art, seeing even a still life or something that shows off, your technical skills or perspective,
hmm,
like those are all really, really good.
hmm,
It's funny because in most animation portfolios, at least in North
hmm.
America, they require perspective. Like you have to be
Oh,
really good
yeah.
at perspective.
Hmm,
um, and I think a lot of portfolios
hmm,
requirements want to
hmm,
see some traditional pieces and not
hmm.
just all digital. So I did notice that you have mostly digital, but that sculpture
Yes.
in there,
Yeah.
the sculpture was
Hmm.
great because it was
Yeah.
non-traditional. Now, did you show
Yes.
all of them together?
Yes, all of these were like the 15 drawings that were meant to. I mean, I guess they were submitted as like separate files. Like for example, these ones were submitted as like a PDF,
I
so
see.
I could showcase all the things. So it was like a number of 15 files. I thinking back at it, I probably could have added a video in there if I wanted to. So yeah, that might have been a possibility, but yeah, basically they were submitted as like 15 separate files. That's the tricky thing about the digital portfolio, because normally with the physical ones you have like the whole exploration and stuff. Like you can present them in different ways, and it's a lot more tactile of the things that you're showing. But I guess the benefit is that you can reuse pieces and send them to several places. But yeah, no, and like you were saying, perspective, but not very good. You can see in a lot of like a lot of the earlier paintings when I tried to do some of those inks, when I tried to do the dramatic poses and stuff, that foreshortening, it's not there. But yeah, no, I think honestly, thinking back at it, because it is not the best portfolio I've ever seen by a mile. But I think what they really took from it must have been the characterization and the storytelling of it all. Like, I think I did manage to showcase my passion for storytelling, and I guess that's the thing. Like, you can never make the perfect portfolio. You can only make like the best one that you can at that point. And I hope what you take from this is, if you've submitted portfolios before and gotten denied, or like don't think that your portfolio is good enough, just know that I ended up getting in on the second try. So try and keep trying. And if that university is a thing you want to do, that's definitely a thing you can do. Just keep going. It's it's obtainable.
Yeah, and it's all about mindset, right? Like if you don't
Yeah.
get in the first time, you can either think, "Oh my goodness, I don't have a chance. Forget it. I'm going to do
Yeah.
something else." Or you can say, "You know what? I
Mm,
learned and I'm going to do better. So it
mm,
depends on how you look at it. Either way, you're right, right?
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that really helped you was having
Mm,
that positive mindset, and
mm, definitely.
if anybody was showing you support, I think
Yeah,
that
no,
was
that's the thing.
definitely.
I had the privilege of being able to just stay another year at home with my parents, which is a privilege. Not everyone can afford to do that. And I had my mom pushing me to keep going and work hard and keeping me accountable because I am very bad at self-directed work. I'm very bad at keeping myself accountable. So having that external person giving me deadlines to get things done by and stuff like that, it really did help. So
Thanks, mom.
yes, yes. Thank you, Mom.
All right, so now let's talk about your university experience.
Yes. Okay. So, yeah, a question we're wanting to answer in this stream, I guess, or just give like an idea is what is art university about? For me, it's three main things that you get at university. One is directed teaching. Basically, like I said, I struggle a lot with self-directing myself, and I work really well with structure, with deadlines, and I am very like I work really well at in person kind of like teaching scenarios. I'm the kind of person that could not study for their life once they got out of the classroom, but was very active and very attentive during the classroom. Like whenever in school, that time they're like, oh yeah, finish the rest of the chapter for the exam because we don't have time to run through it. That's the chapter I wouldn't know at all. So yeah, no, directed teaching, you get to be there with teachers, you get to have mentors, you get this experience of someone telling you, hey, so these are the projects we're going to do. We're going to do them in this order. We're going to start here because we need to get the fundamentals. Then we're going to move on this. That's the kind of experience you can expect from pretty much, I think, most universities.
So like structured teaching or a curriculum so that you're, because there's so many resources. I mean, technically you
Yes.
could learn everything you need
Yeah.
to online, but it's very hard to know what to learn and what in what order, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Then another thing that's essential that university can offer is a physical space and a community. You are going to a classroom, you are going to a studio, you are surrounded by other artists. If you're the kind of person that works really well on their own and likes being detached, there's a lot of benefit to not doing that. But especially in a profession like animation, where most projects aren't done by one person but our group effort and interacting with other people is a very important aspect of the job. For me, having that physical space and that sense of community was really important, and getting to meet other artists, whether part of your degree or different degrees that you come across. That's kind of a thing that I benefited a lot from. Like, I still have lifelong friends from my university days. And third of all, you can pursue and explore other interests. Yay. So, the fun thing about university, in most cases, it's kind of like a safe space. It's kind of like a place away from the real world where you're able to just do things you didn't think you could be able to pursue or do while you're just trying to focus or live in the real world, or getting a 9 to 5 job and having to like pay bills and stuff like that. It's kind of like a haven outside of all of that where you can push yourself and try new things and see if you like them or not. So it's a good place to find yourself in that sense, find the kind of things that you vibe with, the kind of things that you don't, and kind of try a bunch of different things that, as an artist, I think it's important to do. Like, nothing that we create is truly like new and original. It's about filtering it through our eyes. So the more we can explore about who we are, the more interesting our art is going to be in the long run, I think, at least. But yeah, so those are kind of like the three benefits that I see for university.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Like I went to uni a lot longer ago in
Yeah.
the past, but I definitely think
Mm,
that there's nothing more motivating than deadlines and real
mm,
deadlines that you paid a lot for, right? And you don't want to fail any classes. Whereas
yes.
if it's on your own, there's really nobody there to motivate you to keep you accountable.
Yeah.
So if you're the type of person that needs that, then university is definitely a good choice. And also, you get a fancy piece of paper that
Yes,
says
that's the most important thing.
that you
You
did
know,
it, right? A very expensive piece of paper, but
everybody knows.
ultimately,
Studios look at that piece of paper, nothing else.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know where my piece of paper went. I framed it, and it's like somewhere in
I
the
have it
basement.
filed in a in a cabinet somewhere. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but definitely, like my university experience, I never knew anything about printmaking,
Mm,
and I took a printmaking
mm,
class and thought it was
mm.
fantastic. I would have never been exposed to that. I took a history of advertising class, which
Oh wow,
was
that's very useful.
so
Yeah,
random, but I was looking at my list of electives and I was like, that looks really
yeah.
interesting because I want to know how to market myself well, right?
Look at you now. I mean,
And then
it
I ended
definitely
up, yeah, I
paid
ended
off.
up working in
Yeah,
advertising for a few
yeah.
years. So those are those experiences
Mm,
that are sort of curated by the school that
mm.
allow you to explore, like Gonzalo said, in a safe space. So those are things we
Yeah,
may not think about.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and if you're trying to learn it yourself, there's like a million distractions. You're on YouTube and, oh, here's another video. Oh, here's another. And then by the time,
Yeah.
you
That's
know,
my thing,
yeah,
honestly. That's my main issue. Whenever I'm trying to learn a new skill now, I get distracted so easily unless you
yeah,
have like that structure and that deadline of like, oh, you have that project due on Monday. Get to it.
exactly. Not 4 hours
Yeah.
down the YouTube rabbit hole, right?
Yeah.
Um,
So
so,
yeah, these are some random pictures from me university that I could find. Just to tell you about like the variety of things I did. So I was part of the university radio. I hosted a whole kind of like radio program with a couple of friends. We're still to this day doing a podcast together. Every single week, we sit down to talk about filmmaking, movies. It's these kind of things. I didn't know I liked radio in the slightest, but I just jumped onto that opportunity. I was part of the media, like the university television kind of like society, where we did a bunch of media stuff. I got a couple of awards, yay!
yay.
And did volunteering with the university, helped out a bunch of the students. We did a lot of mental health work with a lot of the people that were living abroad. I even took place on a musical show. You can see me with a silly hat and the silly face. That we did 9 to 5. That was really fun. I am terrible at dancing, turns out, and I even ran for president and didn't get it, but I ran, so that was fun. That's one of my friend's dogs. She was rooting for me on that campaign. Sadly, the cuteness did not win out.
You know what? If you had the dog in the picture, maybe you would have
Yeah,
won.
I would. Honestly, I should have just had her in the picture and no one else. But yeah, so that's the kind of like random stuff, like even outside the academic opportunities that you can have. Like I feel like they're a place where there's a lot of different extracurricular communities and stuff, and it's a place where you can like learn things that you might otherwise not find the space to just jump in and say, hey, I want to try radio, or oh, let me do some volunteering with this great group. And it's stuff that you kind of take with you. So that for me was the benefit of university. And we're going to discuss it, but like it's not I understand it's not a thing that's for everyone. I understand, especially all our friends from across the pond. You guys have crazy tuition fees, where you basically just go in debt to go to college and university when you don't have any sort of kind of scholarships or anything, and it is absolutely insane. So I can see that if you none of these things sound like a thing that you need to improve on your art journey, like I can completely understand just not doing that and using these internet resources to kind of guide you through this process of improving as an artist. I know several artists that are 10 times better than I am at my age, who didn't go to college, didn't go to university, and learned everything they did from online courses and YouTube, and things like the kind of stuff that Wing Canvas offers, like these kind of courses where you have like a teacher that's kind of running you through it. So I can perfectly see that, like the choice between going to university, going to college or not, it's very much something that I think you need to explore for yourself and see whether that's something that you're going to need or not, especially when you're in these situations. If you're in Europe, and especially if you're part of the EU, you have no excuse, man. university is free in so many other countries. You just travel from one to another. Try to get a language if you can. German is good, English, French. A lot of these places like Denmark, Norway, Germany, they have completely tuition free. Universities or universities where the government pays for your tuition. So definitely, like, just, I mean, at that point, just try and see if you like it.
Yeah, that when we first spoke about tuition and
Yeah,
Gonzalo said I went to university and my tuition was free, I was like, oh, because
yeah,
I went to university in the US and I'm very lucky. I'm an only child. I'm very
yeah.
lucky because it
Mm.
was very expensive. Not to say even when you do get
Mm.
free tuition, there's still all these
The
other
costs, all the
expenses,
living
right? The
costs.
cost
Yeah.
of living and
Mm.
traveling and
Mm.
art supplies. But definitely eye opening that
Yeah.
art school in Europe is
Yeah.
free.
The
Makes a
only
big
thing I had
difference.
to, like, because I went to university in Scotland before Brexit happened, when it was still part of the EU, and basically, like like the Scottish government paid for my tuition, and the only thing I had to pay for was the £100 a year to cover the art supplies that were given to me during the course.
That's amazing.
So yeah, it was quite, I mean, I was incredibly lucky, and I never really realized how lucky I was until I made friends from the US and Canada, and they started telling me, regaling their stories of tuition fees. Yeah, we're like, honestly, if you are a European citizen, look into it. If at nothing else, like, you have a wonderful privilege that a ton of people don't have. So, and if you are from the US and somehow have like family members in Europe, see if you can get like a passport or something, if you really want to go to art school, because it might definitely save you a lot of money and heartache.
Wow, that's. I mean, onto a brighter subject of
Yes.
tuition. Um,
Yes.
so let's see what your exit portfolio looked like, and then we're gonna get a
Yes.
sneak peek of your current
Current one.
portfolio.
Yeah.
But we do have to keep this one a lightning round, so I'm just gonna
Yes.
speed
Let's
through
just
it
run through it. Yeah.
so that we have enough time for Q&A.
Yes.
All right, so
So yeah, so these are some of the character design stuff that I ended up with by the end of the course. So you can see that my character design improved a lot. My understanding of 3D improved a lot. Of like seeing these 2D characters in a more three-dimensional. You can see the expressions that I ended up getting improved a lot. Lot less warping in the face and the features. Um, yeah, just doing a lot of turnarounds. It's a thing you have to do when you like character. A lot of poses.
I noticed you
Yeah,
got better at simplification too,
I did. I really
right?
did simplify characters a lot more. That's a thing that sometimes it's easy to lose because you're trying to make these life, like these characters come to life. But even just a couple of shapes can give you a really really good character. And yeah, we worked through a lot of different projects, and yeah, like you could see, like even these expressions here and these poses, like there's so much more character and so much more like solidity to them. Is solidity a word? I don't think it's a word, but there you go. So yeah, character growing up there.
Oh, that's interesting because I think a lot of people struggle with age progression, like how to draw the same
This
character.
was hard, and it's
Yeah.
still not great. But this was really hard. It was a project we were doing where the animation was around this character as she grows up. That was really tough. I was the lead character designer in that, and that was a challenge. I did a lot of studies, and you can see like still not great, but it's way better than what I could have done before university. I can tell you that.
It's really funny that that kind of that teenage
Mandatory emo
attitude
faces.
to like a young
Mandatory emo
adult.
face.
Yes.
Yes. Mandatory. The director literally asked for the emo face. So we can skip this one, but this is just a really rough animatic, just to showcase more like storyboarding stuff. Did a lot of sound design things and stuff. It's very slow looking back at it, and I should have, cleaned it up in the edit. But yeah, a lot of like kind of like color studies. What are they called? yeah, when you break down like a storyboard and you do the colors for like what the actual lighting's gonna be. This was for a 3D short I was helping with the storyboard and stuff. So yeah, just trying to get the vibe. I was like an alien horror comedy thingy. Yeah, here, so just trying to get the exaggerated colors and stuff. Gotten a lot better at color since this, which I'm very proud of, honestly. But you can see that the level is quite different and a lot improved of like the kind of stuff that I had on my initial portfolio. It's just a small section.
I like the sound effects you added here.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with sound effects, honestly.
And that's something that you just explored on your own.
Yes, that's the thing. That was something that I explored on my own to try and get the sound effects added to the thing because it wasn't part of the task at hand, but something I wanted to explore to give it a bit more life and a bit more movement. And a lot of those snoring sounds are literally just me on a mic, just going.
So good.
Yeah. And yeah, and we can see this is another project I did on my third year, where like yeah, we were trying to do effects animations, and I did the thing I shouldn't have done, and I went way too hard and barely did effects animations and focused more on characters and backgrounds. You can see that's kind of the ideation phase and stuff, and then here's the final one where again barely did the actual task, but I kind of like how it turned out. So
So how long did this take you?
this was 3 months, 4 months,
Oof.
maybe. Yeah,
Oof.
yeah.
It's a lot of work.
So a lot of work. That was yeah. Also I was learning at the time, so it's always double the slow. But funnily enough, that animation was shown to the year after me as an example of what not to do during that task.
Oh, interesting.
Yes,
Okay.
because again, it was supposed to be an effects animation focused project where you had to do 3 minutes of effects animation, and I did way too many character animation. Like, yeah, but yeah, so you can see there's like night and day before and after. I'm a person who really thrives under like guidance and deadlines and leadership and having people, keep me accountable. So yeah, I improved a lot thanks to that.
So let's see some of your current work. Um,
Yes. So I
so
got a portfolio website now, which is
yeah, and this
nice.
was the portfolio website that I saw when Gonzalo was asking for critique, and I was like, this guy is like so good already, and it does goes to show that you can learn at any age, and you
Yes.
shouldn't compare yourself to other
No.
people, but it is good to compare yourself with your
To yourself.
past self, right?
Yes, yes, 100%. And I got some really good feedback from you guys, like from a lot of people in the community. Because that's another thing about feedback. You don't need to be an expert in like art to give art feedback. Sometimes might feel things and like certain things might call to you because that's the beautiful thing about art. It's a very democratic kind of like thing where like everyone is able to perceive it and feel it. So a lot of people who like were just starting up were able to tell me interesting things about what they felt about the portfolio and oh, I don't know about this layout, or maybe this makes me feel like that, maybe you should move this around, oh, this piece looks really calls to me and this other one doesn't. Because the thing you have to take into account when you're going into a professional portfolio is that you're not only like showing it to other artists, this is also going for executives, it's going for directors, it's going for depending on what you're applying for, a lot of people that might not be artists. So it's always good to get all the opinions that you can and just try to filter that and yeah, and just keep improving, honestly.
Yeah, definitely. And did in your journey, did you
Mm.
ever go like did you ever
Hmm.
pay for a like an actual review from a professional?
No, I didn't. Honestly, I only learned about those being a thing very recently while we were talking. I wasn't even aware that that was a thing that I could do. Knowing it's a thing I could do, I am definitely going to do it because there's nothing like someone who knows like the industry very well giving you feedback on what your portfolio looks like and what pieces you should take out and what pieces showcase the stuff that you're going for. Honestly, it's invaluable, invaluable advice.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
yeah.
I definitely think there's
Mm,
there's also more value in having a
mm,
mentor, I think,
mm,
because they can also discuss your career with you and
yes.
whether or not the major that you chose is right for you. Because I can't tell
Mm,
you how many times I've worked one on
mm,
one with students and they don't know anything
yeah.
about the degree that they're getting.
Yeah.
And that just mirrors my mistake as well. Like
Mm,
when I applied to university when I was actually 17 because I
mm,
was able to skip a year. And I had no clue what was even I didn't know anything about the industry, and it was a long time
mm,
ago. There weren't forums, there weren't Reddit,
mm,
Discord
yeah.
didn't exist. And so I had a really, I didn't have anybody.
Mm,
And I thought I wanted to be a fine artist. But then on
mm,
my first day, I realized that it was not for me. And by then it was kind of too late. And
yeah.
I had to pay money to then switch my major. So had
Yeah.
I talked to
No,
somebody.
I definitely I had so many classmates that ended up switching courses during the whole university experience, going from illustration to fine art graphic design, product design, back into animation. Like there was a lot of flip flopping just because a lot of these degrees aren't as like well understood as like a lot of older more like non-art degrees are, and going into it, it definitely pays to have someone being able to like teach you, okay, so yeah, animation is basically going to do these things, illustration is more this stuff, graphic design is more focused on this, like it's yeah, it's very useful.
Yeah. So was this one
Mm.
actually done as a, like
Yes,
for
okay.
work?
Yes, this was a commission. There's this small group of people doing like we're doing a fun like a fan made update modification to the Breath of the Wild game before the second game came out. They were doing on the, I believe it's not on the Switch, it's on the previous console, the Wii U. They were doing like mods for it, and they wanted to do this great big expansion and stuff, and they needed help with concept art, trying to concept this new kind of thing they were wanting to add. So I did a lot of work for them, trying to create these modular buildings and like recreate this style from like a couple of. It was meant to be like the Sonai, which we now know is like a completely different thing. But like back then, we had like a couple of snippets of visuals of what maybe they were related to. So I basically took a lot of references from that and tried to expand into a whole like culture from it, and create like a lot of different kind of buildings that could be built with similar assets or just by flipping assets and stuff like that. That's another thing, like when you're working on a project, the more you know about the thing you're working on, the more helpful you can be to the people doing it, you know, because yeah, creating a whole 3D model and texturing it takes a long time. So if you can like move the shingles around and make the house look different, then that's fantastic for them, you know, you're saving them lots of time.
Right.
um, this was from a independent studio working for Mojang, doing a bunch of Minecraft stuff. This was specifically for a short film they wanted to do to promote one of the projects, where they were wanting to implement a 2D style to their 3D animation. They were working with 3D animation, and they wanted to do, after I think it was Arcane came out, they really liked the idea of like the flat 2D textures on top of it, and they wanted to do a more cartoony version of that. So I took a lot of like shots from their 3D models and painted over them to try to create this kind of like look, and then they practice projecting it on and doing camera motion and stuff like that. Really fun project, honestly. Yeah.
Very cool. So I think a lot of people who come to
Mm,
Wing Canvas are
mm,
really interested in game design, and
mm.
it looks like you were able to work on some game design projects
Yeah,
with an
yeah,
animation degree.
Yes.
And I would argue with an illustration degree as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, honestly. If you're going to a world of concept art, illustration and animation, like you're going to get to like different sets of skills there that both apply to that kind of like work. Anything conceptual. And if you're looking for work in video games, I suggest you look into smaller studios. First of all, because they're nicer and they'll treat you better. Second of all, because they're more approachable and you'll get to have a more wide range of things to do rather than focusing on the one like cog in the machine thing that you repeatedly do. You get to kind of do a lot of variety of things. This is a thing I did for myself, just character design stuff. Yeah, just a group of bounty hunters. I was trying to push my colors. I work with a lot of muted colors in the past because I was kind of scared of using colors. So here I was trying to do bright characters with very vibrant colors and very contrasting ones, and trying to make them look good as a whole. So don't know
Yeah,
if it
these are
worked out, but
beautiful because they all have the same style, even though they're
hmm.
uniquely different.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a more recent one. Actually, I've suggested we do a project like this on the Wing Canvas Discord. Basically, a fun thing if you're wanting to try to get into like environment design or building design and stuff. Very fun exercise. You just go on Pinterest and look up Minecraft houses and like take one of those and use it and kind of like use it as inspiration. It's also very good for like getting perspective and stuff because everything is so like square and part of a grid kind of stuff. So it's a very good kind of like practice thing to do. And a lot of them have shaders, so they give you a very good idea of like where the light is coming from and stuff like that. Very good exercise. Just a fun one I thought I'd throw in here.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. I love all the details and these little environments. Oh, okay. So
They're cutesy.
we can.
This is
I'll show
yes.
a little bit of
Yeah.
this.
This is a fun one.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I can picture you making all
Yeah.
those sound designs.
I got to mine the game of Hollow Knight for a lot of the weird bug noises and stuff. It was really, really fun. Yeah, so you can see I really like adding sounds to my animatics.
It,
It just gives it a layer, you know?
oh yeah, definitely gives
Mm.
it a lot of life. And I know we have a lot of Hollow Knight fans here. Shout out to
Yes.
Evie. I know I know she's
We're all
a big
patiently
fan.
waiting for Silk Song.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
let me go. All
Yes.
right. So,
We made
Q&A
it.
time, guys. Thank you for all of your patience so
Yes.
far. And I think it was very enlightening to see your entire portfolio journey from,
Hmm.
this the terrified beginnings to where you've come.
Hmm.
Um, do you if you had to sort of
Hmm.
encapsulate your entire school and or your entire
Hmm.
journey so far
Hmm.
from applying to art school to now, what is the what is the one thing that you would
Hmm.
tell your past self,
Hmm.
Gonzalo? I wish that you knew this.
Yeah, honestly, I wish I knew there were online resources for like getting portfolio feedback back during that year of uncertainty that I spent working on the portfolio. It really would have helped. I did manage to find a lot of YouTube videos discussing the idea of portfolios, a lot of them more tailored towards like professional portfolios, which did make it feel very intimidating when you're seeing these breakdowns of portfolios and everything you're seeing is this incredible art from amazing professionals. does make you feel like sometimes you're not up to speed. But honestly, I'd go back and tell myself that it's fantastic, that I just need to keep going and that I'm going to improve and get better. It's really easy as artists to compare yourself with others or feel like you're not where you wish you could be. And yeah, art is like working out any other muscle. It's about persistence and time investment, and you'll eventually get not just as good as you want to be, but you'll find things about yourself that you never knew, and you'll find a voice, and you'll find kind of like a style and a personality and a focus that you might not have found before. And yeah, just I would encourage my past self to kind of like jump into a lot more uncertainty, try out like things that I feel, I'm not good at, and just push through it, because I feel like my journey of improvement has really sped up when I've started doing things that I thought I wasn't able to do, that I thought I'd be bad at. And after you get through a couple of failures, you end up succeeding. So, it's just fail quickly, as they say.
That's actually really good advice. I listen to a lot of business podcasts, and that's one of
Mm,
the advice that everybody said. Like all the CEOs of these big companies, they
mm,
say, if you fail, fail fast and keep
yeah,
going and
yeah.
learn
Learn from
from
those
it. Right?
failures. Yeah.
Learn from it. And I think looking back at my own journey, I would have told
Mm,
myself, Faye, before you
mm,
go and spend all this
mm.
money on your university application, know what you're getting into. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Do some
yeah.
research to make sure that you are actually applying for something that
That you
you
want.
will enjoy.
Yeah.
So I think, for example, I was lucky enough when I was in school,
Mm,
I discovered that I would get
mm,
bored if I had to
mm.
draw the same thing over and over again. So animation definitely not for me. Uh, even though when I was a teen, I was like, I want to be a Pixar artist. I want to work for
Yeah.
Pixar. Then when I learned what animation's actually like, I was like,
Yeah. No.
that's just
I
not the
mean,
work condition, right?
Faye, my one takeout from my animation course is that I hate animation. I
Oh,
love animation, but I hate animation, and I don't think. Yeah, it's a lot, and it's a very different muscle from just getting a nice drawing done. So yeah, honestly, like make sure you're getting into what you want. Illustration is a fantastic degree that focuses more on that, like getting that one illustration done on the composition aspects, on the color theory aspects. So like yeah, just try and see what you like you were saying, like what you're getting into. Make sure you know, especially in the case of being in the States or Canada or anywhere where tuition is really high, or where you're getting yourself into like a precarious situation by throwing yourself into this. Yeah, make sure that you make sure that you like it. Make sure that you're into it.
yeah, and like who do you go
Hmm.
to, right? Like who do you talk
Yeah,
to?
yeah,
And so I think communities like our Discord is a great place to go.
yes.
If you want the advice of
Mm,
industry
mm,
artists or professionals,
mm.
you can take a mentorship or you could take a private one-on-one. So we offer these at Wing
Yes.
Canvas, and usually
Mm,
it's just a one-time ask us
mm,
anything type of lesson. We also
mm.
have group mentorship, and so those are really designed. Group mentorships are good because then you can learn from other people, right? So other
Yes,
people have
yes.
questions that,
That is another thing for university, like the amount of time that we were our own teachers during that, like standing in the studio.
yes,
There was this point where like you were frustrated with one of the drawings you were doing or one of the animation things. You just stand up and start walking around and look what everyone else is doing. And you just sit down and they're like, that's fantastic. Keep going that way. Oh no, maybe change this kind of thing. And like you had people coming over your shoulder and helping you and giving you advice and stuff. It was absolutely like so yeah, like even a group mentorship where you're like side by side with other artists, even seeing other artists get feedback can help you a lot.
definitely, yeah,
There's a lot of like stuff out there where like you can see people like giving portfolio advice to someone else, even if it's not for you. Like those same things can apply, and those things are still like really useful to see them be corrections. That's why I enjoy doing a lot of like the feedback stuff whenever I do draw overs and stuff. I try to not just be like, oh, here, that's how you fix your drawing, but like try to get in, okay, what fundamental do we need to focus to improve this? Okay, Let's go back to that. So that kind of stuff, even if it's not your drawing, even if it's just going on the Wing Canvas Discord, going on the feedback thing and looking at all the feedback that's been given, they're teaching you stuff. Like you're seeing things that you can apply to your own work.
Yeah, so I'm hearing community is a big one. Rose
Yes.
Sketch 20 asked in the
Yes.
Discord,
Hmm.
how do you decide on which artwork would be good for your portfolio? So I'll let you
Yes.
answer this and then I'll answer it from an
Okay.
adjudicator perspective.
Okay. So this is the hardest thing to do when it comes to a portfolio. You might find a piece compelling for a very personal reason that might not work for your portfolio. And it's very hard to see that. That's where someone else comes in. That's where someone giving you feedback for it comes in. This is where I made a lot of the mistakes in my portfolios and where I struggled a lot. And I literally just had my mom to go and be like, hey, mom who doesn't know anything about art, what do you think about these? So that's where something like having a mentorship, having a portfolio review comes in, because you might love a piece because you see something in it, but someone else who knows what you're applying to says, okay, this is gorgeous in this way, but you're not showcasing this, this, and that, which is really important for the thing you're applying to. Or this one mistake you made here basically just tells me that you don't understand this concept. And I'd rather see something that shows me you understand it than this beautiful piece that tells me you don't. So it's the hardest bit. It's the hardest part of doing the portfolio, and I think an external adjudicator of sorts there will like is essential, honestly.
Yes, and I totally agree on that. There's always work that we feel personally attached to, that we're like, no, but this is my favorite, but nobody cares.
Yeah.
In nobody cares, and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
kind of have to have thick skin, right? Especially
Hmm.
if you want to
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
be an artist. It's not just like, oh, this is my work. Like, don't say anything bad about it. No, no, no. The more you can detach yourself from your artwork, the
Hmm.
better it's going to be
Hmm.
when you are a
Yeah.
professional.
It's
And
it's hard because it's you need to pour yourself while you're creating your artwork, but then once you're done, you need to step back and be able to like see it from afar. So
yeah,
yeah.
definitely. And don't take critique personally because it's
No,
coming from
never.
a completely neutral point of view.
Hmm. Hmm.
But in a nutshell, the best way to know what to include in your artwork is A, what are you applying for? What do they want to see? Read those specs really, really carefully. And
Yeah.
we actually have an entire video on
Mm.
exactly what to put in your
Yes. Yes.
portfolio.
Yes.
So you can
I've
check that
seen
out.
that. It's very good,
Oh,
guys.
good, good. Thank you.
Yes.
We will link that in the chat.
Mm.
So we have a whole video on
Mm.
that. Okay, so next question.
Mm.
Fox Blocks here says, is choice of art software important? And
Mm.
could you be denied a job if you do or don't use a specific art software?
Okay, so two questions. For the first one, no, it's not important. Basics and fundamentals are applicable no matter what software you're using. If you're dependent on a software to create art, then you don't have those fundamentals and those basics. Like you should be able to draw a circle, whether you're using a pencil, Procreate, or Photoshop. It doesn't matter. But when it comes to applying to jobs, that's a different story. A lot of jobs don't care, but some of them require you to use specific software programs, and they say, "Oh, we want you to be prolific at this, or we want you to use this for the job." Uh, it's important to be able to adapt to new software. It's not hard. It's a pain in the ass, but it's not hard. It just takes a little bit of time to get used to the UI. And even someone like me who's absolutely terrible at computer stuff, you just put in like a day or two familiarizing yourself with how the UI works and how the software works, and then you're pretty much good to go. Because again, it's about being able to apply those fundamentals in a new format, but it's essentially the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. I would say as an employer,
Hmm.
if I said, you have to use Adobe, we're looking for you to use Premiere Pro, and you use DaVinci Resolve, right?
Hmm.
You could just say, I actually use this as my main software, but I can learn it, right?
Yeah,
Like that.
literally. Yeah.
I'll learn it. I'll figure it out. Like though,
Hmm.
that's the type of attitude that
Hmm.
employers want to see. So it's not
Yes.
that you don't, we can learn anything these days,
Hmm.
right? Anything. It depends on what the
Yes.
motivation
Yes.
is.
No,
uh,
exactly. Yeah.
okay, so the answer is no.
No.
It doesn't
It's
matter. So, question from Vin: what are common mistakes students make when putting together their portfolios? So I'll
Hmm.
ask you, Gonzalo, what were three mistakes that you think you made? You said fan
Oh,
art,
okay.
right?
Yes, fan art number one.
Yep.
I should have relied less on fan art. I don't think I showed things like we discussed, like fundamentals, like perspective. My life drawing was like really small part of that. I think like showing that you have those skills, if only like just a picture mixed with like some perspective drawings and some like drawn from life poses and stuff like that. That basic understanding and stuff, and honestly, I think there was too much of the same thing. I think I could have varied a lot of the things that I was showing. Like when you're looking at that and analyzing it from like a perspective of, hey, do I want this person here? A lot of the works that I put kind of show the same things, the same thing about character, about expression, about movement. It's kind of like very samey and ends up being like a lot of the same stuff. I could have definitely varied and show a lot more skills that I knew I had, like I know I had at the time that I definitely didn't show.
Yeah, that's exactly what I would have said. Like,
Okay,
if
yeah.
you want to
Mm,
avoid common
mm.
mistakes, that the number one thing I see is too much anime. Like,
Yeah, true.
when
Yeah.
especially, I mean, maybe if you are applying for art school in Japan, that would
Mm.
be different. Okay. But I
Yeah.
think that art schools
Mm,
see too much anime, and when
mm,
they when they see anime, they assume fan art.
mm.
So even
Yes.
if you like working in the anime style, that can work against you. But when you're
Yeah.
out of school, you can
You
do
can
whatever you want.
show, that's the thing, you can show like the range of like styles that you have.
Yes.
I feel like it's okay to have an anime piece and then like a real life piece and then like a exaggerated, like it showcasing that you understand the basics and can apply them to a thing. But it's true that if you're very tied down to a style, you're kind of like letting go of like a lot of the fundamentals that make it easy for you to go from one style to the next.
Right. Definitely. And the number two thing I see is not following instructions. So if the portfolio says submit 5 figure drawings and you don't do that, then like that's a no
Yeah,
brainer. That's like
yeah,
immediately this person doesn't listen. Next, right? So
yeah.
that's also for I see a lot of that even
Mm,
in job application portfolios where I get a
mm,
cover
mm,
letter and it's
mm,
like addressed to some other company, and I'm like,
mm, mm.
hello, double
Yeah.
check your work.
Yes, always,
And
always.
Vin, there was a part two to that question.
Mm,
Should students be creating a portfolio tailored to each specific school job they're applying for, or just having one portfolio is enough?
mm.
Definitely tailored.
Tailored, yeah. Okay, so when it comes to schools, 100% tailored. Every school is going to ask you for different things. Like they have different rules, they have different expectations. Like you were saying, Faye, like they're going to have a list of things that they want from you. You have to tailor it to that. It's okay to reuse work. Like if you have one work from one thing that you want to show, and that's fine. There's no issues there. But you have to tailor that that portfolio to the school that you're applying to. And when it comes to jobs, kind of much of the same. It's different when you're like applying for the same kind of role. A lot of jobs are more vague about requirements, and they ask you requirements when it comes to like, oh, good use of fundamentals. We want you to use this program and that program, kind of stuff. So if unless they're specifically asking you for something, if imagine you're applying to a storyboarding role, and you're applying to several storyboarding roles, if the role is the same, if you're a storyboarding, I don't know, like a revisionist, which kind of the entry role in a storyboarding thing, you could use the same storyboarding portfolio for all 3 or 4 or 5 applications, unless the description of that application asks for something different. So, like Faye was saying, read the requirements like full on, just read the requirements, have like a little notepad with like a checklist that you look at. Okay, did I, okay, requirements done. Yeah.
Yeah, and don't mess up on your number one school. If anything, you cater your portfolio to that number one school, okay? And until it's done, do not
Mm,
get sidetracked on the other portfolios. As much as it
yes.
stresses you out, you got to work on one thing at a time, something I'm
Mm,
terrible at, but
no, I
I'm
don't.
learning that you have to focus on that
Mm,
focus on your number one, make it as
mm,
tailored as possible, and then move on to your number two, number three. And yeah, just like I think finding a mentor is the best thing you can do. First of all, it saves you tons of time,
Yeah.
gives you fresh perspective, and you get
Guidance.
expert feedback, right? And that is
Mm.
so critical because not only do can they look at your portfolio
Mm.
objectively versus your mother subjectively. Oh, I love everything you do, Gonzalo. I love
Yeah.
this portrait of me. Can you put it in your
Yes.
portfolio? An expert would say, you know what,
Mm.
like this piece is stronger, this piece, and
Mm.
even the order that you put your pieces in your
Yes,
portfolio is
yes.
very
That's
important.
important. You
Yeah.
want to start with your best piece and end with your best piece. Like you want to be able to like, start strong and end strong kind of thing.
You must
Yeah,
have
there's
watched
like a
our
lot.
video on that topic.
I did. It's a good video, guys. I am no longer applying to university, but that's a very good video in general, just for portfolio advice. No, but yeah, it's one of those things. Honestly, guidance is very important, and especially because a lot of times the struggle comes from not knowing where to start.
Yes.
So yeah, that's why that's why I really wish I would have had something like Wing Canvas when I was applying.
Me too. That's why we are here.
Yeah.
Um, so another
Mm.
question. This is from Jaw Redstone Guy, one of our
Mm.
lovely Patreon members. Is having a range of art styles and art
Mm.
mediums you work in beneficial to having a good portfolio?
Yes, 100% yes. Like it, yes, it shows that, especially in something like animation, a lot of the work of animation is going to be copying other people's styles. There's a YouTuber, Harry Partridge, I think, or something like that. He's famous for just being able to replicate any style. Yeah, that's pretty much what animation is. But even outside of that, it just shows that you're able to grab again these fundamental principles and apply them in different ways to different things, and it shows your abilities. Like the more you can, like, that's just flexing. Like if you can do different styles, different mediums, you're basically just showing, hey, look at how good I am at all these different things. Yeah, I don't think you should be prioritizing variety over quality, but if you have variety and quality, 100% show it. Yeah.
That's interesting because the advice that I give to
Hmm.
students who are applying for an art school portfolio is yes, variety is great because you
Hmm.
get to show your interests, right? You get to show that, and it's important to show a little bit of traditional, a little bit of
Hmm.
3D work, a little bit of design, and a little bit of illustration or animation, whatever you're applying for, because in the end they're all connected, right? They are. And if you do become an animator
Hmm.
or concept artist, you will likely be working in a team of people.
Yeah.
So you have to collaborate, you have to learn how to mimic other styles, which is a really
Hmm.
good point, because especially if you're a designer or an animator, right, you're
Yeah.
more likely to have to adopt a style or get a brief or get
Definitely.
a character style guide or something like that, and you have to be able to do it like
Hmm.
this, right?
Yes. Yes.
Whereas if you're the only thing I would say,
Hmm.
is the exception is if
Hmm.
you are an illustration major
That is true.
and you are being hired for a specific
Yes.
style, but let's say you have three different styles. Like
Hmm.
I have so many different styles of illustration. I would say probably I have like my realistic style.
Hmm.
I have my, kind of dark, weird, creepy style. Some of you guys might have seen
Yeah.
a little bit of that. And then I have like a very wholesome style.
Yeah.
And I create separate portfolios for those because if I
Hmm.
send the same style portfolio to someone
Hmm.
hiring an illustrator, they might be like, well, which one do I hire you for? Which style?
Yes. Yes.
So I think for professional portfolios
Hmm.
that it should be more congruent, especially to the job, right? So
Hmm.
if the job is a background artist, don't show characters. It doesn't, I mean, you could show
Show your
one or two,
backgrounds.
but at least show
Yeah.
a
Show
background
your
with your
backgrounds.
character, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. And illustration is one of those things where like a lot of people in illustration are hired specifically for their style. So yeah, I know there's a lot of obsession, especially when you're young, about, oh, I need to find my style. What's my style? Oh, does my drawing look too much like this or that? not important when applying to university. Once you're a professional and once you have a name, and especially like you were saying, Faye, in the land of illustration, a lot of illustration is, hey, that's blah 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 style. I recognize it. It's part of your branding as an illustrator to have a recognizable style. But like you were saying, Faye, like you can still like you have a great range of styles. You just tailor the style to the project, to the job that you're doing.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think it depends, right? It depends
Yeah.
on what you're applying for.
Hmm.
All right, so we have time for one more question. This one is
Okay.
from Eva.
Hmm.
How long did it take you to develop your portfolio for school?
A year,
A
an
full year.
entire
And this
year.
this
Yeah.
was twice, or this was after the first time you applied?
So the first time I had to apply in like the time of like a month and a half because that's all I had before the deadline. And hence why it was awful. Because yeah, no, because a lot of the way education works in Spain, you have primary school and secondary school, and then you have 2 years before university. That's called baccalaureate, and in those 2 years, you can specify a bit more and specialize a bit more. The rest of the years, you basically study the same pretty much as everyone else. I was lucky enough there was a baccalaureate of arts very near my school. I mean, it was still like 45 minutes away, and I had to get up at 6 in the morning every day. But still, close enough that I could go. The thing is, again, in a lot of places like this, they usually teach you how to do a portfolio, and usually a big part of your like grade at the end of the year is getting that portfolio for applying for universities done. That was not the case with me. So I basically finished, graduated. I was like, oh, I want to go to university. What's a portfolio? So yeah, uh, my first one was incredibly rushed and very, very bad. And it wasn't until later on when I decided, okay, I'm going to try again. I'm going to spend this 1 year. I'm going to have a part time job and I'm going to focus most of my energy on getting this portfolio down. So it took me an entire year. It doesn't need to take that long. I was a weird exception, but yeah, it takes as long as it really takes. And like again, it was the case of like I had a whole year because the next time to apply was a year, like was next year. So I just had a whole year, but you could very much get the kind of work I did for a portfolio done in like a couple of months, 3 months, something like that, especially if I had guidance to kind of focus me on the different pieces. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, the more time you have, the better.
Mm.
Typically speaking, here in North America, if you count up to grade 12 is
Mm.
when people are applying for the university portfolios.
Mm.
So in grade 12, people think, oh no, panic time, especially around January. It's like people start to panic because they have 1 month left. So if you only have 1 month and you didn't give yourself enough time, it's probably a good idea to take a gap year or take some
Yeah.
time to actually commit and work on it.
Mm.
Find somebody who can help you that can really accelerate your journey, right? Imagine you having to do it alone versus somebody going in and
Yeah.
correcting your work.
Yeah.
So I definitely think, a year is a good time frame. We've helped
Mm.
students do it in about 6 months, some in three
Mm.
months, but it also depends on how ready they were when they came to
Yeah,
us.
that's the thing. The
Um,
amount of work that you have beforehand. Yeah, going in.
exactly. And I just wanted to show you some critiques from our mentorship classes. Basically, we have the majority of the students who take these classes need life drawing help. They need figure drawing skills.
Mm.
So if you're applying for art school, either illustration, animation, um, if you can't draw bodies well, number one thing you should focus on, because you can have an exceptional portfolio, but if your figure drawings are not good, then
Yeah.
everything can kind of fall flat. Um, and if your
During my
figure
entire
drawings are great,
university,
pardon?
yeah, during my entire university degree, like we had a figure drawing class every single, like 3 times a week. We had to go do life drawing.
Yes.
Like it's very big part of the degree. Yes.
Oh yeah, 100%. And so these are just some of my notes from my figure drawing programs, which are art mentorship style. Basically, we do drawovers, and I show my students how to correct their proportions, and how to how to make things look more 3D, anatomy notes, and things like that. So I definitely would suggest art mentorship. I have a figure drawing program that is starting in January. It is the figure drawing intensive part 2. So
Mm.
we go into, more
Full in depth.
of the
Yeah.
yeah, more in depth. And
Mm.
Josh has a drawing and painting art mentorship
Mm.
as well as an animation mentorship. But I suggest doing the drawing and painting and working on your traditional skills if you are more of a digital artist, because nowadays it's very hard to tell digital artwork if it's original or not, right?
Yeah.
So you have to either show your process or draw traditionally,
Yeah.
um, just to kind of show that you can.
Yeah, yeah. And again, like things like that, they might look like sketchy and oh, it's not finished work, but it generally it shows that you have those core fundamentals. I keep saying fundamentals during the whole thing, but fundamentals are so important. I keep going back to fundamentals constantly as a professional artist. The amount of time that I need to go back and take a step back and go back into the perspective, into the anatomy, into the shape language. Like
Yes.
these things are so important. If you have these things down, then everything else just builds on top.
Yeah, not always the most exciting, but
No,
definitely the most
very
important.
boring, but
Yeah.
very important. Yes.
Yeah, and if what can you do today? You
Mm.
can join our free art nerd community on Discord. We have about 6,000 people who are there. We are all there because we like to nerd out to art and help each other. You'll
Yes.
find Gonzalo there. You'll find me there. And if you want to take it a step further, you can sign up for our Patreon and you can get critiques from our instructors. So that's always really, really helpful because,
Yeah.
even if you're not sure where to go with something, just having experts to give you feedback is super, super helpful. So definitely check that out. And again, thank you so much, XP Pen, for sponsoring this stream. Go check out their amazing tablets. I have the XP Pen 15.6 Artist Pro, doubles as my third screen. Very, very useful. I use it every single day. And they're very affordable and great for beginners. So thanks again, XP Pen, for sponsoring this stream. And I'd like to end it with a huge thank you, Gonzalo, for taking the time and
No, it's been an
helping
absolute pleasure.
so many people, sharing your winning portfolio and also your positive outlook and mentality on what it takes to find success.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, I mean honestly, I try to keep being positive. Don't get it wrong. I suffered a lot through through that gap year of struggling and stuff, and there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of sadness and a lot of struggle. But you need to push through it, and you need to focus on the fact that hey, this is something that I want. Let's see how I can get there. You know, one step at a time. We have a saying in Spain, you can't eat an elephant whole, you have to cut it into little pieces.
Oof.
So, yeah, just one chunk of elephant at a time.
Chocolate elephant.
Chocolate elephant, yes.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining our portfolio night. And we will see you in the next stream. And a big thank you to Gonzalo. All right, take care, guys.
Thank you.
Good luck
Bye,
on your
guys.
portfolio.